need to pull this thing down. Yeah. Good.
Okay. Today's 15.
It's just new link. Then people need to share the new link.
Ah, no, it's gone.
Yeah, it's accepted. But if you
Where
go
I
to the
find
channel,
it?
there is the live one,
Yes, okay, yes.
and then you find it.
Yes.
Okay?
Wil jij hem delen?
Ja, ik zal hem op de zanger-app zetten.
Now it's okay? Good. So, a sadhana, when we look at a sadhana, a booklet, actually what we have in our hands is a map. It's a map showing us a path. No? So a map can be really, really useful when we walk the path. Having a map and not going or not traveling, it's not so useful. No? It's like, for example, last summer we went to Mongolia, and then I had this sort of daydreaming, oh, how nice it would be to go from Italy to Mongolia by car. And then I was there looking at the map, saying, okay, which way I would need to go, how would it be, and so on. But the truth is that I don't know if I would ever be able to do it. For the moment, it's just looking at the map. Or maybe one day, who knows? It's mainly a matter of time to dedicate for it. But the point is that looking at a map without ever going on the trip, it may be really nice because we can daydream, we can think about the different places where we will be and all of that, but it really doesn't make much effect. Okay? The function of the map is to help us truly to go to a place. The function of the map is to help us actually to walk through that place, and the map is not showing us everything that is there. It's showing us some key points, showing us the main turns, the main references of where we need to go through. But it's not showing us everything that is on the pathway. Some maps are very detailed, some map has very few details, okay? But the fact is that the path is one. Then we can use different maps. Some maps are that better to us, some maps less, you know? So when we look, for example, this painting, this is a map showing an inner process that we need to do. And the same thing goes with this booklet, the Sadhana. It's also a map showing us this inner pathway, okay? So, whenever doing a sadhana in a practice, there are 3 levels of the practice. There is the first level, which is how to recite. So we learn the words, we learn the meaning of the words, we learn the gestures, the mudras, we can learn the meaning of the mudras, and we learn how to recite, how to do it. This is the first level. Once we have done that, then we can go to the second level, which is what to visualize, what to imagine. It's not only what I recite, it's not only the movements I do, the way of breathing, it's also the way of thinking, which is the visualizations I do, what I imagine as I go through the practice. And then there is a third level, which is the real thing, like the real reason why we do all of that mainly, which is the states of consciousness that we generate. Different parts of the practice, it has the function of generating a certain state of mind in order to help us to familiarize ourselves with that state of mind. Okay? Normally this part is not explained so clearly. It's like a sort of a consequence of the rest. Okay? But when we look at any sadhana, it can be the preliminary practices, the Guru Puja, self-healing, environment, Tara, Vajrayogini, Yamantaka, Black Manjushri, it doesn't matter. It always has these 3 parts. How to recite, what to visualize, what level of consciousness, what form of consciousness to generate. For instance, love towards oneself, love towards others. There are like identifying oneself with the different inner qualities. There is an inner process that goes on. No? So when we look at self-healing, again, there are these three levels. Okay. The first level, it's mainly what is shown in the sadhana. So it's showing us what we need to recite. So when we look also map-wise, we can have map for the three levels map. One map is showing us mainly what to recite and how to recite. And reciting is actually very important. One second, I take this out because it's a little uncomfortable. This is for my neck. This is something connected to the practice of self-healing. Because it's a special type of cloth made with, in the textile there is ceramic. So it reflects the heat of the body backwards to the body in the form of infrared. So it goes deep heat. And I have some issues in my neck, so that's why it's useful. Similar to that, we use our own strength to heal ourselves, like self-healing. Anyhow, so we are not depending on something else. The point is that the maps that we use, they can have different levels. Okay, and the first level that we have here is the level of mainly what to recite. And what to recite is actually very important. In Tibetan, there is a saying which goes by the old person needs the walking stick. The old person of meaning needs the walking stick of words to stand up. Which means we are not so much able to think about a concept without words. To generate any particular thought or emotion, we need somehow, our mind works through concepts and through words. Okay? The powerful thing of symbols is that somehow it goes beyond that. Because when we attribute a lot of meaning to a symbol and we connect to it, it brings us to connect to all of that without needing to go through a very conceptual verbal process. Otherwise, most of the times our mind goes through words, and the words direct the mind. So the part of recitation, it has the characteristic of energy also, because sound is vibration, vibration is energy. And all the mantras, they have been made in a way to create a certain type of vibration, also there, okay? And so recitation is important. It's quite interesting also when we have a lot of recitation, we do a long recitation. And in Tibetan in particular, because Tibetan and Sanskrit has a certain way of, how do you say, the word, like Tibetan, most of the words are done of 2 syllables. So we can recite nicely, no? There have been some attempts in the West to translate everything and do all the recitation in one's own language, which in one way it's very beautiful, on another way it's very awkward, which in the sense that when you try to put the Tibetan, the original melodies with our languages, it simply doesn't fit, you know. And so what happened is that when one of the parts of the practice has to do also with melody. Okay. Actually, if we look also from a more like material point of view, our brain, if we do a brain scan while we recite and while we sing, if we speak and we sing, it's completely different. From what I understood, when singing, the right and left side of the brain work together. When reciting, it's not locked. So we just feel, even if we just need to feel ourselves, if we feel the difference when we say in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then if we do the recitation in Tibetan, Sangye Chönam Sokye Chönam La Chanchu Parato Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchira Sangye Druparashon. The first one, when we recite in English, where do you feel in the body? Or in the head? The second one, where do we feel more?
The heart.
In the heart. Okay. It works in a different way. But this has nothing to do because it's Tibetan. Huh? If you sing, it works in a different way. Okay. And the melodies, they have by themselves a part of healing, a part of blessings, and it's also something that is transmitted from generation to generation since long time. Like in the monastery of Tashilhunpo in Tibet, they have some melodies that you can only learn if you go through a whole process of practice and you are part of a very sacred group. Otherwise, no one can learn that melodies. And one time I was there, they even said, oh, you know, these melodies are being lost. New people are not able to do them as before. And I said, oh, why don't we record them? No possible. I tried in many ways. I said, I give you the recorder. I don't need to listen to it, you know. I said, no. It's something that needs to be transmitted from person to person, only if you have done a certain retreat and process. But the fact is that there is this part of lineage of melodies, and it's part of the practice also. It has an effect on us, okay? So when we try to take that melodies and adapt our Western languages to that melodies, it simply doesn't work. And when we take our Western melodies that fit better to our languages and we put together with the prayers, it also, for me, it doesn't work. You know? Like if I do, in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. You know, like, it feels strange for me at least. Okay? So, yeah.
I heard that some Rinpoche, he put church in English.
Okay.
Because he said it was important for people to understand what they were saying. And I was, I wanted to ask if I could get them, but I went to something else. But then I was interested because
I wish, and I have this sort of romantic idea of being able to do the original melodies with English or whatever Western language, okay? The difficulty is that to do that, the melodies, they are based normally on 9 syllables lines. And to say the same stuff in 9 syllables that you have in Tibetan, it's like, let's say in English, maybe we can make it, huh? But in English you have 4, in Tibetan you have 4 lines, maybe in English you need 12.
In Dutch even more.
In Dutch maybe even more, in German I don't know, maybe even more, I don't know, but it's like Tibetan is like, it's very interesting because you have like, with so little sound you can say so much, no? Like for example, you repeat after me, this is like essence of the practice. Lelen tamche, chiklada, kunla katrin, chewagom. So if you listen, lelen tamche chiklada, kunla katrin chewagom. Very little sound, no? When you need to translate, is lelen tamche chiklada will be eliminate the one that is to blame for everything. So already have at least double line. Kunla Kadrin Chewagom, familiarized with gratitude towards all sentient beings. The one to eliminate, which is the one responsible for all negative things, is selfishness, okay? So Lelen means the one responsible for all bad things, Lelen. Tamche means all. Chik means one, Da means to go against. So it's like, it's really, in very few words we can say so much. No? Like, Tsun Kang Gela Troao. Tsun Kang Gela Troao. Very small sounds, no? Tsun Kang Gela Troao. So basically here we have 7 syllables. If we need to translate, it will be, what is joyful effort? It is the joy in what is virtuous. It's like the double. Okay? So when we try to adapt it, it's a little tricky. So what I feel is that when we sing, even though we may not know the actual meaning of every word, if we are able to know the general meaning of that whole paragraph, for example, oh, this is taking refuge, okay, this is making offering, this is, okay, I'm openly admitting my own mistakes, whatever it is. If we have the key of what we are doing, then we connect the mind to that meaning. And if we have read before a few times the translation, we can connect to it. So I don't think we need necessarily to do it word by word in our language. Okay? But also because when we recite the same thing many times, at one point we even don't listen anymore to the words that we say in our language. For example, I have seen, there are songs that we sing the songs and we don't even think about what we are saying. I don't know if this happens in Dutch, but I see in Portuguese or in English, it's like, there are many songs. I remember some songs from when I was a small kid. We would sing it all the time. And then many years later, I actually started to think about the meaning of the words, and they were terrible. Like there is this song that when I was a small kid, we would sing it all the time. Which is, chirei un pau no gato to, mais o gato to, no morreu, dona Chica, chimiro se, do berro que o gato deu. Meow. Looks nice, no? But the meaning is, I have thrown a stick in the cat, but the cat didn't die. The lady Chica, she was amazed by the strong scream that the cat did. Meow. So it's terrible. But when we would sing it, no one was really thinking about the meaning. Not the children, but also not the adults. Okay? But the interesting thing is that even if we don't think about the meaning, somewhere it moves. So when it comes to the practice, 2 aspects. One is that even if we do in our language, but we become so much used to recite it, at one point we don't think anymore about the meaning. So, but still it works on us. So there is a very positive side of doing in our language. On the other side, if we do in our language, we lose the capacity of doing the melodies. And the melodies also bring a particular way of breathing, because in Tibetan language, everything is with the same amount of syllables. It's very rhythmic. So the breathing also becomes in the same way. Okay. Another way, these words, they have been blessed since long time by reciting in the same way. And one thing, last but not least, if we do everything in our language, there is the danger of losing the correct meaning of some parts, because we do translations and we cannot truly trust the translations often. And then at one point we lose the reference to the original text, and then now what? No? Like I remember in the Guru Puja, there was one verse which had a very wrong translation. And and then after some time, if we don't change it and if we lose the contact with the original, it becomes a problem. No? So this is just to say that when we do the recitations, we do it also in Tibetan. And we have also the meaning together, okay? But I hope one day we can also, I think it's possible to do it, the melodies in our language, making a translation that is much more essential, sort of poetic essential. Something like that, it may be possible. I was trying to do something like this with the text of the Dalfsen chakras, and I made one first part on a poetic way. Actually looked very nice and very nice to recite. It's possible to do something, but I just, as I said before, I have this sort of romantic idea. One day we can make it, to do it. But one other thing also which is important is that our languages, they are not yet mature enough in relation to Buddhism to be able to hold the full meaning. So there are many words that are missing. And what happens is that we use words that cannot truly represent that meaning, and if we just forget about the original text, at one point we lose the actual meaning. Okay? Anyhow, the point is that the words are useful to direct our mind. But the other thing which is even more powerful to direct our mind is visualization, imagination. So the second step of the practice is not only reciting and doing the gestures, but it's also visualizing and directing the mind. Okay? And that's actually very powerful. Some people say, oh, I don't know how to visualize. I am not able to visualize. Actually, I think everyone can make it. It's just one way is a matter of how familiarized we are with the object that we try to visualize. And the other thing is some people have a mind which is very much visual, and others have a mind that is less visual. But maybe visualization is not the right word. What we need is to imagine. So, one example that I did many times that helps us to see if we are able to visualize or not, and to try to explain better what it means, is if we right now concentrate for one moment, and we'll follow one visualization, simple visualization. So imagine that you are seated on a chair. In front of you there is a table. You are surrounded in a beautiful environment. Then someone brings in front of you a nice pizza. Okay. So you can see clearly the pizza in front of you. You can choose the toppings. Okay, there is tomato, cheese, and then you have whatever else you like, some vegetables and so on. And then you can actually see the heat from the pizza coming up. It's just come out of the oven, so you can feel the heat coming up. And you start to cut the pizza, and the edges are more crunchy than the center. And then you take and you can feel like the cheese coming out and so on. Can you imagine that?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that when we imagine, it moves something inside. Okay, if you do this visualization correctly, you get water in your mouth. Okay? So the point is that when we imagine something, our body and our whole being reacts as if we were going somehow through that experience. Okay? So when we talk about, I imagine Guru Buddha in front, it's the same thing as I imagine a pizza. The main difference is that we are not familiarized with Guru Buddha as much as with pizza. And on the other side, okay, there is different effects on us. Okay? But, for example, if I want to visualize Guru Buddha, and I start imagining the presence of Rinpoche, Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, for me, one of the most powerful ways to connect is imagining and remembering the smell of Rinpoche. Lama Gangchen Rinpoche had a very particular smell, something that was very unique. And when I remember that, I'm not able not to feel emotion. It's something that enters into a very direct way. Okay. So when we talk about visualizing, it's not just like taking the little drawings and placing in our body. For example, we do the part of the purification of the elements. It's not like that we go to the sadhana we have here in page number 6, and then we imagine what is here, and we just imagine like we cut it and we glue in each one of our chakras. Like, this is just a representation. But when I visualize the wind mandala, it's not just a little half circle green in color with the Tibetan letter. It's actual wind moving. And it's not the letter, it's just a symbol. When I put Y-A-M, yam, what is a syllable? It's a symbol representing a sound. So the wind vibrates with the sound of yam. And it has this green color. So imagine the shape of the wind, and it's half ball shape because that's the shape also of the lower part of the body. So we imagine from our legs up to our sacral chakra, the wind moving there and going towards the central channel. But we imagine it's actual wind. Then when we have the fire at our navel, it's not a little red triangle with a little Tibetan letter Ram. It's actual fire. And the fire natural shape is triangular. It's going up. So imagine this fire inside our central channel, just below in the navel area, and the wind makes the fire to get stronger, and then the fire starts moving up. We can feel it, we can see it. It's actual fire. And it makes the sound of Ram. It vibrates with that sound. And it's mostly red in color. Then that fire arrives up, and in the whole area of our chest, it's earth. And it's actual yellow earth. It's not a little square that we stick. Okay? So it's actual earth, and then we feel the earth heat going up, and the whole earth vibrates with the sound of Lam. And we feel the heat going up in the whole earth, which is like square, like a cube, like the center of our chest, and it goes up. And then when it arrives in the throat, there is water. So it's like, imagine that on top of earth there is a little lake, and the lake is actually on the water. That's why it's a circle. It's like a lake of water that is on the throat. It's not a little circle that we stick there. So you imagine the water like a lake, and then the white water, and it vibrates with the sound of bam. And then you start to feel the heat goes up and up and up and up, and it starts to evaporate. And then when it goes up, it touches the ground where it condenses. And then you feel like a rain coming inside of nectar, of white nectar. As the white bodhicitta is melted, we feel this white nectar coming down, and it's a substance that wherever anyone's get in touch with it, it generates bliss. And you feel it coming down. As that comes down to each one of the chakras, it enters each one of the different channels, and then it generates this amazing feeling, overwhelming feeling of bliss wherever it goes. It's such a way of bliss that even not possible to touch much. It's like too sensitive. And we feel this bliss going first to the crown, and then it goes down through the throat, enter the different channels of the throat and grow through the whole body. And then goes to the heart and goes through all the channels, and then goes to the navel and goes through all the channels, then goes to the sacral chakra and goes through all the channels. The channel is all our nervous system, our lymphatic system. It's going through our whole body, through our veins. It's generating this profound state of bliss. Okay? So, this is to imagine, to visualize. It's beyond just taking the little drawing and placing there. This is a map to help us what to imagine. When we generate the lotuses, again, it's not taking the little drawings and sticking them inside us. It's we clearly imagine that inside each one of our chakras, the energy channels, they become so perfectly aligned that the central of the channel, it's the center of the lotus, and each one of the petals that opens, it's one of the channels that come to it. So we see this beautifully aligned lotus in the side of our chakras, in the side there, and they are actually showing us all the different channels perfectly aligned. Okay, so as we do the visualization, the more we are familiarized with it and the more we give meaning to these symbols and so on, the more powerful it becomes. When I think about Buddha Akshobhya, what does it mean? If it's just an image of some sort of Buddha that I put there, it's one thing. If I start by recognizing, this is one, I give one example, then it's the same for all the chakras with Akshobhya in the heart. First there is the lotus, which is symbolizing our channels, no? Which means that energy can flow nicely, without blockages. Then on top of that, it comes the sit syllable. The sit syllable, it is a seed. What's the meaning of a seed? Something very small that holds within it the potential of something very big. Right? You know, think about, I don't know, any tree, even an apple tree. You have this little seed of an apple, and if you plant in the right environment and you give it right conditions, it will ripen to become a beautiful big tree. Okay? And all the information of the tree is inside the seed. It's quite amazing to think about the technology that is inside that. Huh? It's quite something. Or when we think about any animal or any human being, that in the moment of birth, within the union of the ovum and the sperm, like all the information of that whole body with all the immense amount of details, everything is there. And when you think about any tree, so much information just in that small little seed. Okay, so it's like potential. Potential means all the information is there.
What's the difference between potential and essence? In this case.
Potential, it means that there are all the, let's say, the possibilities to develop certain characteristics, but they will not develop unless the conditions are there. Okay, this means there is a potential. When I talk about essence, essence is something that it is there and it will continue to be there. Okay, it can change into many ways, but it will continue to be there. This is
this case is the...
We are talking about the potential. For example, when it's the sit syllable hum, it is the potential of Buddha Akshobhya. So what does that mean? Okay.
But the essence is there in this small thing.
Yeah, everything is inside. The essence is also there.
Yeah, okay.
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 But the essence is something that it's in the beginning and remains until the end, and it's always there. That's the essence.
Okay.
The potential is like a, how to say, it's something that it's there, which if the conditions are correct, will transform into something else.
Yes.
Okay, a seed is one thing, a tree is another. But there is the potential to become a tree. But the essence that is in the seed is also in the tree. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So, in the sit syllable hum, it's a seed because there is the potential there. Okay? It's a syllable because sound is, a syllable is a sound. Okay? Sound is vibration, vibration is energy. Okay? On the other side, vibration is sound. Okay? The fact that we may or we may not be able to listen to it is just because our own ear is not able to listen to certain frequencies and so on. Okay? So it is explained that everything has a certain vibration. And based on that has a certain sound, has its own energy. So when we talk about the syllable hum, it means something very subtle, very small, which is a syllable, that has the potential of something very big, which is Buddha Kshobhya, and at the same time it has its own energy, very subtle energy. That's why we call a sound, a syllable, which is a sound, which in this case is the sound of hum, okay, which means like a subtle energy. So what it means, it's a very small, something very subtle, very small, with a big potential, and it's made out of energy. Okay, subtle energy. That's why we call it syllable. Okay, it's a sound. Sound is energy. So the essence is hum. Okay. So, what is the syllable hum? Is it something that we need to gain from outside, or it's something that we have within us and we need to access? Okay. This makes a big difference. All the 5 syllables are something that we have within us and we need just to access it. Okay? So what is on the basis that has the potential to become Buddha Akshobhya? There is our aggregate of consciousness. No, we said Buddha Akshobhya, blue color, is the aggregate of consciousness transformed in a pure state. It's the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu wisdom transformed. Okay? So in the essence, what is the essence of the syllable hum of Akshobhya is the aggregate of consciousness, is the mind itself. Okay? The Dharma Dhatu wisdom that will transform from a state of anger and hatred and so on into a state of love and compassion and so on. Okay? But it is something that we have there. All of us, we have aggregate of consciousness, we have the aggregate of sensation, we have the aggregate of compositional factors, we have the aggregate of discernment, we have the aggregate of form. So what happens is that the 6 syllables are our own 5 aggregates are represented in the aspect of the 6 syllables. It's a way to access to our own potential. Okay? So in the moment that we visualize the 6 syllable hum in the heart, we are accessing our own potential to become a Buddha. In this case, it's our own aggregate of consciousness. When we go to the throat chakra and we have the syllable A, red in color, it's our own aggregate of discernment. When we go to the syllable Om, it's our own aggregate of form. The syllable Tram, our aggregate of sensation. Syllable Ri, our own aggregate of compositional factors.
Can I ask one question?
Yes?
Some people might say anger is also potential. Is it right or is it wrong?
It is a potential, which doesn't mean the potential for something good.
No.
Okay? Being a potential, it doesn't mean necessarily something positive. For example, anger has the potential of war.
Yeah.
Do we want war? If yes, we cultivate anger.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's like potential by itself. It's not something necessarily positive or negative. It means something that is there that if cultivated can become something else. So we can say, okay, what is the potential of anger? Anger, if cultivated, it generates energy, generates strength. It makes you move towards something. But normally in a way that is destructive, that ends up generating more suffering. So there is no doubt that, for example, all the mental defilements, anger, unlimited attachment, fear, has a very strong, powerful potential for suffering.
So it's part of the aggregate, but this potential is not part of the hum.
No, the potential, the hum, is like our own aggregate of consciousness has the potential to become the pure aggregate of consciousness. Our own aggregate of discernment has the potential to become pure, to be free from the defilements, and to develop the wisdom of discernment in its full potential, and so on. Okay? So, When we look at the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and we think about their meaning and we understand it better, we look, okay, Akshobhya, it means love, compassion, patience, stability, aggregate of consciousness in a pure state, and then we have the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu wisdom in the result state, okay? This is already more than enough, but we look at all of that and we say, am I that? Not yet. What can become that? Oh, I have my own aggregate of consciousness. I have my own Dharma Dhatu wisdom. I have my own emotional state which can be transformed, so I am able to develop that. And where is the potential? Is within me. It's not something that I need to take from outside. I need help to develop, but it's something that is within me. Okay? So what we do is that when we visualize the 6 syllables, we are accessing our own potential. So the 6th syllable, it is actually symbolizing our own potential of enlightenment. Okay? To transform the qualities of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Then this potential, they will not grow unless they have the right conditions. Okay? And the main condition necessary to develop our qualities, it is to accumulate what is called in Tibetan sonam, in Sanskrit punya. Translation doesn't exist, but normally it's translated as merit or positive karmic force. Okay? How do we generate that force? One of the main ways is by giving. So what we visualize, and this is something that if we go here, in page 8, Om Ahum Tramri, it is something that it's not written, but it is there. When we do the practice with little bit more time, we visualize that from the 6th syllable, first we access the 6th syllable. And one important thing, how do we visualize the 6th syllable? We can actually take that writing in Tibetan and we can stick it to our chakra. That's just one way. We visualize the actual Tibetan letter. The way how I prefer is that the 6th syllable, first of all, is like a seed. So it's normally described as a little white mustard seed, like this little round, very small. That is on top, or it's inside the central channel and it's there. And it's made of light and it vibrates with the sound. So you have that small dot of blue light that vibrates with the sound of Hum. You have the white dot that vibrates with the sound of Om. The red dot that vibrates with the sound of Ah. The blue dot of light that vibrates with the sound of Hum. The yellow dot of light that vibrates with the sound of Cham. And the green dot of light that vibrates with the sound of Ri. Because when we have a letter or a syllable that we write, what it means, it's just a way to symbolize sound. Okay? So what it means is that there is sound, there is vibration. And what is the vibration? That's Hum, that's Cham, that's Ri, and so on. So we visualize the blue lotus, the blue 8-petaled lotus, on top of which there is this little small dot of light that it is made of energy. And it vibrates with that sound. Okay, then as we place it in there, from that blue Hum, light emanates. And it goes into all the directions. And the light, as it emanates, it transforms into so many different things. So it goes to all sentient beings, and it transforms into food for those that are hungry, into medicine for those that are sick, into affection and caring and friendship for those that are lonely, into protection for those that feel threatened, into the Dharma for those that are ready to receive the Dharma. So it acts to the 4 types of generosity, giving materially, giving love, giving protection, giving the Dharma, and gradually it brings sentient beings to a state of peace. And then the lights come back and reabsorb to our heart. At the same time, lights also emanate from the home and go to all the Buddhas and transform into all sorts of beautiful offerings. And as the Buddhas receive that, they experience an inner state of bliss through which they realize the true nature of reality, so-called union of great bliss and emptiness. So we make offerings to all the Buddhas and we help all sentient beings. And then the lights come back, reabsorb into the home, and it generates a lot of energy. Okay, by giving, we generate a lot of positive karmic force. And through the force that we have generated by that, it's like if we are putting water and a lot of very powerful fertilizer on our seed. Then it cannot hold anymore that small, then it grows. And then from the small seed syllable home, that potential starts to develop, and then it becomes in the form of the symbol, appears the Vajra. The symbol is similar to a plant, that when you have the seed of different plants, they may look quite similar, but then when they start actually to blossom, like not blossom, blossom is how I say, to germogliare in Italian.
Germinate.
To sprout?
Germinate. Not germinate, sprout is better.
Sprout, I think when they start to sprout, like this little leaves start to come out, they start to open, okay? What happens is that we will see the shape of each one differently. Now it's more clear what type of tree they will become, okay? So the symbols, they represent that potential which passed from a very subtle level into a more gross, which is the subtle level. Okay? Then the symbols arise. So we have the blue Vajra that always vibrate with the sound of home, and like this we go on and on, we have the 5 symbols. Then, once again, from the Vajra, blue Vajra, light emanates once again, going towards sentient beings, going towards holy beings, making offerings, helping sentient beings. So we concentrate in that moment with compassion, altruism, love, with gratitude and respect to all the Buddhas. We request their blessings, we act with compassion with all sentient beings. And then the light emanates, go to all of them, connect to all of them, helps them to generate a state of peace and bliss. And then the lights come back and reabsorb into the home. And once again, by the power of that energy that is generated, then that potential develops even more. And from a very subtle to subtle, it manifests in a more gross level. And it manifests in its full potential, appearing as Buddha Akshobhya. Okay? So when we have Buddha Akshobhya in our heart, it symbolizes our own capacity of loving, of having compassion, of being stable, of being patient, of having our mind free from defilements, which is the pure aggregate of consciousness, and the Dharma Dhatu wisdom. All of that developed to its maximum potential. Okay. So, in one way, we have the syllable, it's the potential. Then we have the symbol, is that potential starting to develop, and then the Buddha is that potential fully developed. Okay? If we go from another way of looking at this, sit syllable, it symbolizes the very subtle body and mind. The symbol symbolizes the subtle body and mind. And the full body of the Buddha symbolizes the gross body and mind. Okay, 3 levels that we all have. Okay, so this is also one part of the meaning that is also there. So, as we do the practice, we should access our own potential. And once we access it, we slowly create the conditions for it to grow. Okay. If we go into more details, the main condition for that potential to develop, it's love, compassion, altruism, so-called bodhicitta, and wisdom, correct view of reality, realization of emptiness. These are the 2, which is called absolute bodhicitta. So absolute bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta, which is wisdom and compassion. These are the 2 that will be allow that potential truly to develop and grow. Okay? So going into more details, like a little bit of more advanced way to practice, but okay. When actually we emanate that light and nectar from the 6 syllables or from the symbols going towards sentient beings, ideally, the best way is that there is the basis of love and compassion, which is when we connect to others, and it's always there. And as we make the offerings, we are always aware that both the one that is making the offering itself, and the one that is receiving the offering are all interdependent, and they do not exist in an independent, objective, autonomous way. Okay? So actually, by making the offerings and by helping sentient beings, if we can do it within the awareness of emptiness and interdependence, we are cultivating both wisdom and then compassion by helping others. Okay? And even inside the compassion, we can also put together the part that sentient beings are interdependent, they do not exist in an autonomous, independent, objective way. We can connect the fact that the root cause of suffering is the ignorance of not realizing the true nature of reality, that everything is interdependent, and because of that it lacks inherent existence. And we connect to that also through the part of compassion. So if we are able to put the two things together, this will create the real condition for that potential to grow and develop. Okay? Okay, so this is one aspect of the practice. I think is it clear? Okay. Okay, just before we do the practice, 2 more explanations. Also, if I can have a watch, just because otherwise time flies. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
And the mudras. Actually, the mudras, they represent something very deep meaning. Also the 6 syllables actually in Tibetan, the way how they are written. It's incredibly beautiful, the meaning and the way, but anyhow, we'll go to the mudras first. Okay, 5 Dhyani Buddhas, 5 different mudras, okay? A mudra, the word mudra in Tibetan is chakya. And chakya, it means seal. Okay. Seal, like when you have a stamp, we have a seal.
Yeah.
Okay? It means, actually, in a way, it actually is these words that if you look in the dictionary, you have like 30 different translations, okay, depending on the context. But the meaning here, it is that it is like a way of identifying and saying something. Okay, when you put that seal, when you put that stamp, then you say you put the identity clear. Okay, so the mudras, in a way, they are clearly showing what is the family, what is the meaning, what is the quality to be developed. There are so many things which is clearly shown through the mudra. And the interesting thing is that the body language speaks to us even in a more direct way than the verbal language. No? If you come to offer something to me, and I come and I say, yes, 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 please give it to me. I want it. What speaks louder, the words or the gesture? Okay, gestures by themselves are empty of inherent existence, and they depend on imputation of the name, for sure. Okay, that's why, for example, they don't have an inherent power, but when it happened, this, for me, it was a strong example for myself. In the beginning of the war in Iraq with the Americans, one of the first checkposts they did to stop the cars The first time the car arrived, the military went there and the car was coming and they were doing like this for the car to stop. But the car didn't stop. So they ended up killing everyone that was in the car. And afterwards they went to check why this happened, because these people were actually not terrorists, no anyone that was a threat by any means, why this happened. And they went and finally they could understand, and here there was the big mistake of not having a cultural mediator. In Iraqi culture, this means welcome. When someone comes, and this means you are welcome. This is at least what I read. And so gestures, they also are empty of one's inherent existence, depending on the value that we attribute. Okay, but very often there are values that we attribute in a non-conceptual way, and they're there. So, for example, what if I say, I don't want to give it? When we do this gesture, naturally, unless in our culture there is a strong different meaning, what it means for us when we do this. It means to share. Okay? This means away. Opposition. Okay? The gesture, so we can start. Buddha Amoghasiddhi, no fear. Nothing to fear. With the objects of fear, we stop them, we put them away. Generosity, Buddha of giving. Stability, we touch the ground, the earth, it represents stability. Okay? Normally, unless there is an earthquake, what's the most stable reference we have? The ground, the earth. Okay, so we touch the earth, that means stability. Concentration. Put everything is centered into the body, our center. Okay, so this is called the mudra of meditative concentration. The one that is less intuitive for us is the mudra of supreme wisdom, or turning the wheel of Dharma, which Lama Gangchen called the OK mudra, saying once there is wisdom, everything is fine. The OK mudra. But actually, this mudra has a short version like this, the more extensive version is like that. And the meaning of this mudra is called the mudra of turning the wheel of Dharma, which is actually showing a movement. Okay, one on one side, other one on the other. Okay, and it's making this movement. So this, it represents what? The turning of the wheel of Dharma. It's a movement which happens from one to the other, master to disciple, when there is knowledge and experience that is given to the other. That's the turning of the wheel of Dharma. Okay, so this is the complete mudra of the turning of the wheel of Dharma. There is two parts. Somehow we could say one receiving, the other giving. Okay, so this represents the wheel of Dharma, the turning of the wheel of Dharma, which is also called the mudra of wisdom. Okay, so what is the similarity? Okay, how similar are the five mudras? They are very similar, they are very different. How similar they are? Actually, all the five mudras, they are 50% same. The left hand. Because the mudra is not made only of the right hand, it's made also of the left hand. And in all the five Dhyani Buddha mudras, the left hand is where? Here. Not moving. So we can have... okay? So it's not... And it's actually very important meaning. So, in the practice of Vajrayana, to do the practice on a deep level, we need to have two things. We need to have the awareness of absolute truth, symbolized by wisdom, the left hand, in the meditation position. And then we have the awareness of relative truth, which is the right hand, which is appearance. So, what it means is that the left hand in the meditation mudra symbolizes the fact that our mind It's single-pointed, concentrated on the true nature of reality of the lack of inherent existence. So when we did in the beginning of the practice, Om Sobhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Sobhava Shuddha Ham, all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, and so am I. All phenomena are of a pure nature, and so am I. From that moment on, everything that we visualize, that we experience, they appear into different forms. Okay? But they are all empty of inherent existence. They are all of the same nature. So ideally, through the whole practice, we should keep one part of our mind that perceives and reminds ourselves that everything is empty of inherent existence. Everything exists in an interdependent, relative, subjective way. And because of that, it doesn't exist in an autonomous, independent, objective way. Okay? This is advanced level. Okay? But just to give also some other explanations. And this is symbolized by the left hand. Okay? Left side, female energy, wisdom, correct view of reality, mudra of concept of meditative concentration. And what is the meditative concentration focused on? Emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, true nature of reality. And this is symbolized by the left hand, which is always there in the same position. The right hand is showing appearance, which can manifest in many different ways. So there is no fear, generosity, stability, concentration, teaching the Dharma. Okay? There are many different ways how it manifests. But even though there are different appearances with different colors and different meanings and different mudras and symbols and all of that, it is always empty of inherent existence. So one of the key points of the practice of all the Vajrayana practices, which can be 5 Dhyani Buddhas, great mothers, as we said before, could be Vajrayogini, Yamantaka, Heruka, it doesn't matter. When you do any sadhana, there is always in the beginning, Om Sobhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Sobhava Shuddha Ham. This is all, or there is the other mantra, Om Shunyata Gyana Benza Sobhava Atma Koham. Okay, there are different mantras, but it's always to meditate on emptiness. It's always there. There is always Tompanito Gyur, Tompanito Gyur, Tompanito Gyur all the time, reminding ourselves that nothing exists in an autonomous, independent, objective way. So one part of our mind should be focused on that. And this is why also, this is maybe something very specific, but for some may make a lot of sense. When we follow the path of sutra, first we must develop shamatha, which is single-pointed concentration. And then after that we can develop vipassana, which is called the profound view, which is the mind that at the same time that is single-pointed concentrated on its own object, another part of the mind analyzes it. Okay? So in this case, it's single-pointed concentration in emptiness, but one small part of the mind analyzes and perceives appearance and analyzes it. Okay? In the Vajrayana practice, because we put together the lack of inherent existence together with appearance, we train at once vipassana without needing necessarily to go before through shamatha. Okay, this is one of the specific characteristics of the Vajrayana practice. And how we do that? By keeping the mind single-pointed focus on the lack of inherent existence, and while doing that, perceiving appearance, doing all the different visualizations and emanation and all of that, that comes together. Okay? So this is one of the particular aspects. So through the whole practice of self-healing, ideally, we should always keep the awareness that everything that appears to me, it may appear in the form of different elements, different colors, different shapes, and there is emanations going and coming back, and the Buddhas and everything else, but everything that appears, it's empty of inherent existence. Nothing exists in an autonomous, independent, objective way. Okay, so all have the same nature of emptiness. Okay, so to keep this awareness as much as we can during the practice, it's actually something very good also. Okay, so we could divide the practice in many different ways, and one of the things that for me personally have helped a lot is when taking the map, understanding the main, the main turns, understanding the main steps that we need to do. Okay, so it's quite useful for us to divide the practice into the different main parts. So we have first part, which we call the preliminaries. Then the second part, which we call the generation stage. And then we have the completion stage. And then we have conclusion. Okay? We could divide the practice into these four. The good thing is that once we know how to divide the practice and we know the meaning of each part, what is happening within each part, then we can give more emphasis into one, less emphasis into another. We can do it in different ways, okay? The preliminaries, it's really, really very important. And the good thing is that the preliminaries are always the same, mostly the same, independent of the practice that we will do, independently if it's self-healing or Tara or Bhadra Yogini or any other practice, okay? And in the preliminaries, what we are doing mainly is bringing our mind to the present moment, generating motivation. Why am I doing this? Love towards oneself, love towards others, connecting to the holy beings, requesting the blessings. And before that, there is the part of connecting to holy beings, practicing the 7 limbs, which means to accumulate merit and purify one's own negativities in few words. And then after requesting the blessings. This is what we call the preliminary practices. After that, there is the generation stage. The generation stage we divide it into 2 main parts, which is self-generation and generation of the body mandala. Okay? So self-generation, in here we go from Eyam Ram Lambam until before Pamlepema with everything that is not written in there. So there's the part of Sobhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Sobhava Shuddha Han. There is the part in which we imagine that we simulate the process of death, where we generate ourselves as the deity, which in this image is shown here by Vajrasattva in the beginning. Okay? Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum is part of the conclusion of the preliminary practices when we request the blessings. Okay? Then the generation stage, it's made also of the generation of the body mandala, and the generation of the body mandala is made by first developing the container, which means this balanced chakras with the lotuses, and then we access our potential and we develop that potential. So we have lotus, 6 syllable, symbols, and Buddhas. Okay? Once we have developed that, then we can clearly imagine that in each one of our chakras are the Dhyani Buddhas, and again, the stronger is our own understanding and connection with each one of the Dhyani Buddhas, the stronger is the meaning that the symbol has for us, the better the practice becomes. Okay? So we have there, and remember there is a big difference of imagining that Vairocana comes to my crown and having the awareness that my own aggregate of form is transformed into Vairocana. Okay? It's a different thing. My own aggregate of discernment is transformed into Amitabha. My own aggregate of consciousness is transformed into Akshobhya. My own aggregate of sensation is transformed into Ratnasambhava. My own aggregate of compositional factors is transformed into Amogasiddhi, which is the basis of my identity. Okay. Then, we enter into what is called the completion stage. And the completion stage is divided into 4 parts, which we call the 4 empowerments. So we have the base empowerment, the secret empowerment, the wisdom empowerment, and the word empowerment. The meaning that we have here is that in the vase empowerment, which this is the part here as we see in the painting of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas with the concerts, with the 5 great mothers. Then in the sadhana we go here, we start where we have in page number 11, and then we go on. So here basically what we will do is that first we generate an identity of seeing ourselves, identifying ourselves within each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas one by one, in a more gross level. Okay. Let's say if we would do the practice in the most excellent way, without having any level of, distraction, full concentration, and so on. In this moment, in my secret chakra, all my inner characteristics and all my qualities have been developed to their maximum potential. So my aggregate of composition of factors have become Buddha Amoghasiddhi, with all that it means. So in that context, do I still need to eliminate any negativity? Actually not. Okay? So let's say we do the practice of self-healing in a very advanced manner. When it comes here, we don't need to eliminate the negativities. We just identify ourselves. I am Buddha Amoghasiddhi. We receive the empowerment, we experience great bliss, and we generate strong identity. I am Buddha Amoghasiddhi. But because we are still in a moment that, in a way we imagine and we generate Buddha Amoghasiddhi, but we are still with our own ordinary identity, once again we put emphasis and we eliminate all the negativities connected to it. We say, I am Buddha Amoghasiddhi, so I cannot have jealousy and envy anymore. The two simply do not fit together. Okay? So by the fact of being Buddha Amoghasiddhi, by the strength of that, we take away and eliminate completely all the jealousy, envy, fear, and any negativity connected to the secret chakra. It's completely eliminated. Okay. And then, once we receive all the blessings, the form of green light and nectar, and then we become Buddha Amoghasiddhi. We are one and inseparable with Buddha Amoghasiddhi, which means I am certainty, I am courage, I am the power of realization, I am rejoicing. There is no more any space for fear, jealousy, envy, and so on. Okay? So we identify ourselves as Buddha Amoghasiddhi. And like this we go on through each one of the chakras. So, once we have completed these 5, we come to the next part, which is if my composition of factors are pure. There is no more jealousy and envy. If I am Buddha Amoghasiddhi, and I am also Buddha Nadasambhava, which means there is no more arrogance and miserliness, there is only generosity and humility, and the sensation aggregate is pure. If no more hatred, no more anger, a lot of pure compassion and love, I am Buddha Akshobhya. My mind and the aggregate of consciousness is pure. No more attachment, unlimited desire, insatisfaction, distraction, pure concentration, satisfaction, correct speech, correct discernment. I am Buddha Amitabha. Aggregate of discernment is pure. If on top of that, my body is pure, I have developed the pure aggregate of form. No more ignorance, full wisdom, harmony, infinite inner space. I am Buddha Vairocana. If I have all these 5 qualities, I am all of that, then I am a Buddha. Okay? So somehow then we come here in the painting, we go through each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and we develop the identity to each one of them. And then as a result we come to the corner here, which is called the Vajra Master Empowerment, which means we appear as Buddha Vairocana and Buddha Vajradhara, and the description of Buddha Vajradhara is the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So I am a perfectly realized Buddha. I am in the state with love and compassion and wisdom and harmony. My 5 aggregates are pure, the 5 wisdoms fully developed, the defilements completely eliminated, the inner qualities completely developed. I am Buddha Vajradhara. Okay? Vajradhara. Dhara means the holder. Vajra doesn't have translation, but it comes from the word diamond. Okay? Diamond in the sense that diamond in nature, from what I know at least, is the most strong material. So that's why it is called indivisible. And yet it has this beautiful appearance, no? So in this case, what it means, what is indivisible? One's own body and mind in a pure state. Love, compassion together with wisdom. Great bliss together with emptiness. This union is indivisible. So I am the holder of indivisibility, of non-duality, of the male and female energy in perfect balance, of method and wisdom, of mind and body in a pure state. Okay? So I am the holder of it. And the symbol, what symbolizes Vajradhara, is the Vajra and bell, symbolizing method and wisdom, love, compassion and wisdom, put together in a non-dual way. Okay? So this gesture, this mudra, it symbolizes this union, which is an inner characteristic. So in this moment of the practice, we generate, let's say we reach at the highest point of the practice, which is I am Buddha Vajradhara. And we generate that identity. And we remain into it as much as we can. The next step of the practice is when we take that level of consciousness that we have generated, in which we identify ourselves with all the qualities fully developed, and we have this new, let's call symbol, even though it's oversimplifying, which is Vajradhara, which inside Vajradhara there are all the 5 Dhyani Buddha's qualities. So when we see the Vajradhara, it means stability, love, compassion, satisfaction, power of realization, all the qualities, all the 5 aggregates, all what we see in the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, they come into one. And that's Vajradhara. And I am Buddha Vajradhara. When we generate that strong identity, I am Buddha Vajradhara, is not I appear as Buddha Vajradhara, is I am Buddha Vajradhara. Why? I am wisdom, I am satisfaction, I am compassion and love, I am humility and generosity, I am certainty and rejoicing. You know, the 5 aggregates are pure, the 5 wisdoms fully developed. So, I am Buddha Vajradhara. Okay. And once we develop this strong identity, I am Buddha Vajradhara, in the practice, that's when, without saying any more mantra, we just hold the mudra of the so-called hugging mudra, which is the mudra of union of method and wisdom, symbolizing I am Vajradhara. We stay into that state as much as we can. And then that identity, I am Vajradhara, we should bring that from a gross level to a subtle level to a very subtle level. And that's what's called the secret empowerment, the wisdom empowerment, and the word empowerment. Okay? The vase empowerment it is a part of the practice in which the word empowerment is actually not so easy to understand, but it is where through a certain condition it helps us to develop a certain state of consciousness. So the first condition in the first part of the empowerment is an external symbol of water. And when we look in many religions, the one that is more common to us in a Christian tradition, when there is a baptism is done, it's an empowerment. Okay, what is the element used for baptism? Water. And in the original Buddhist texts, like in ancient texts, there were different ways when conferring the ways empowerment. For example, there was a little thing where the person would sit and they would have like a lot of water put on them. Then slowly it became different ways. In one way, it's just taking the vase and sprinkling some water, and then in many different ways. And also when we do the visualization, we visualize that there is this nectar pouring from our crown and filling completely our body. Okay, that's... So when we do the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, it's always part of this vase empowerment. And this is a subject that I want still to go deeper into my own research and to see the similarities of different traditions and what it means deeply by empowerment. My understanding now is that an empowerment, it's a condition that is generated through a symbol or through an external form that helps us to generate a certain inner state of consciousness. Okay? So what is that we need to generate? So-called bliss and emptiness. It's an inner state based on love and compassion with profound bliss, that within that it is able to perceive non-conceptually the nature of reality. Okay? That's called the union of great bliss and emptiness. So the first condition through which we generate that is the nectar that descends from the crown. So as we do the 5 empowerments here, we say, for example, Lama Mikyo Dorje Ken of Akshobhya. No, we do the mudra of the Garuda. And then we purify our negativities. But what is the condition that allows us to purify the negativities? Is the vase empowerment. So what we imagine that there are the 5 great mothers, and they have vases with the nectar, and then they pour the nectar, and the nectar enters through our crown. It fills our body, and by that any negativity, it's completely gone away, like throughout the porousness of our body or through the lower part of our body. All the different negativities, they are completely eliminated. Our body is filled up with nectar, and we experience a profound state of bliss through which we realize the nature of reality. So it's through that process that we eliminate anger, hatred, and so on. And in self-healing, it's explained that we imagine that these negativities, they get out of our body in the form of different animals. Okay? This particular aspect of eliminating the negativities is in the aspect of animals. Rinpoche explained me once that it's in one text from the reference for that. It's in a text from one master called Gyawa Ensapa. Gyawa Ensapa is one of the most important masters of our lineage. That's why the name of our lineage is Ensa Nyingyo. Ensa, Ganden Ensa Nyingyo, or Ganden Nyingyo. No? Normally we're used, maybe many of you have listened, Ganden Nyingyo. If we make the longer version, is Gande Ensa Nyingyo, which means the whispered lineage of Ganden of Ensapa. Okay? So Ensapa was a great master, guru of Panchen Losang Choge Gyaltsen. And Gyawa Ensapa was one of the most important masters of our lineage. And there was one book from him, which in Tibet, it was only being allowed to be printed once every 12 years. and the Panchen Lama would choose to whom the copies were made, and were like very few every time. And this because there were some teachings that if they were made public, there is a high probability of wrong interpretation and understanding. So they should be given only to those that have the correct capacity to understand its meaning. And inside one of this, it's called Kabum. There is one volume that was kept secret from Gyawa and Sapa, and inside this volume, there is the part of teaching how to eliminate the negativities related to the 5 Dhyana Buddhas and the 5 chakras in the form of the different animals. Okay. So here we imagine that our body is filled up with nectar. This generates a profound bliss through which we realize the true nature of reality, and within that there is no more space for anger, no more space for any negativities, and it gets out of our body in the form of the animals. Okay, like snake in the heart. Okay. So once we finalize this through the base empowerment, we generate bliss. Through this bliss, we realize emptiness. By the union of bliss and emptiness, we eliminate negativities, and we identify ourselves clearly as each one of the 5 Dhyana Buddhas. Okay. One small detail in between is that if anybody likes to do mantra accumulation, there is 2 moments of the practice where it's possible, but one moment is at the end of the body mandala, before the completion stage. That's the most common place where to do the mantra accumulation, which means we have finished to visualize the 5 Dhyana Buddhas. Then inside the heart chakra of each one of them, we visualize their mantra and we do the accumulation of mantra. Okay? Then after that, we go to the completion stage. Is it possible to do the accumulation of mantra within the completion stage? Also possible. It has 2 different emphases. Okay? The most common way, following all the different sadhanas like Yamantaka and Vajrayogini and all the other Griya Samaja, the normal structure of normally sadhana, the accumulation of mantra, the recitation and accumulation of mantra is done at the completion of the generation stage, before the completion stage, at the end of the generation stage, before the completion stage, which means we visualize, when we finish to visualize all the 5 Dhyana Buddhas, that's when we can add that in the center of the heart of Buddha Kshobhya, at our heart, there is the syllable Hum. Around that, there is the mantra Om Kshobhya Hum. And then we do the accumulation of mantra. At the center of the heart of Buddha Ratna Sambhava, at our navel chakra, there is the syllable Tam. Around of that, there is the mantra Om Ratna Sambhava Hum. And like this, we go on for each one of the chakras. Okay? And when we do the mantra recitation, the basic visualization that we do is that while we do the mantra, from the mantra garland, light emanates with the different syllables of the mantra, and they go out and transform into whatever sentient beings need the most. Practicing the 4 types of generosity, so helping sentient beings materially, emotionally, giving them protection, giving them the Dharma, until they reach a state of peace, and then the emanations come back and reabsorb into the mantra garland. Okay? So this is also one part where we can do the mantra accumulation, because some people ask, oh, I like to do accumulation of mantra inside self-healing. Where do I do? That's the best place where to do it. Okay? One other way of doing retreat of self-healing, which is also very good, is we do accumulation of each one of the parts of self-healing. We start with Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, or even before with Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanikarma. And then we go on, and then we accumulate the purification of the element, we do accumulation of the lotuses, and so on. Each step of the practice, we do some accumulation of that mantra in order to familiarize ourselves with each one of the steps of the practice. But when we come to the actual accumulation of mantra itself, the right moment is after when we finish the generation stage before starting the completion stage. Okay? Then, there is something else I like to explain about mantra recitation. But I don't know if I do a little bit after. Okay? So in the structure of the practice, we have preliminaries, then we go to the generation stage, self-generation, generation of the body mandala, and then we enter into the completion stage. As we said before, the completion stage, we focus on each one. The first part is the vase empowerment. The vase empowerment is divided into two parts, which is called the Vajra disciple empowerment and the Vajra master empowerment. The Vajra disciple empowerment are the empowerment of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So this is the moment in which we visualize each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we receive the empowerment, and at each time we identify ourselves, and I am Buddha Ratnasambhava, I am Buddha Mogasili, I am Buddha Ratnasambhava, I am Buddha Kshobhya, I am Buddha Mitaba, I am Buddha Vedanta. So when we identify with all of this, then we enter into what is called the Vajra Master Empowerment, which is the moment in which we identify with ourselves, I am Buddha Vajradhara, I am the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. That identity, I am Vajradhara, now, once we have generated, it's still in a so-called gross level. Then we need to bring that identity from a gross level to a subtle level and a very subtle level. So the first step, we bring it to a more subtle level, and this is called the secret empowerment, which we do in the practice when we do the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. Okay? And here in the painting, it's represented by the two lower corners with a white bodhicitta and red bodhicitta. Okay? The white bodhicitta moving downwards, the red bodhicitta moving upwards. What does this mean? In this moment of the practice, our full awareness goes inside the central channel. There is no more any external appearance. There is no more 5 senses. There is just internal experience within the central channel. And we visualize from within the central channel that the white bodhicitta melts and it starts descending. And as it goes through the central channel, when it reaches each one of the chakras, it overflows, entering all the different, it's not that it just goes straight down. When it is going through each one of the chakras, it enters all the different channels. You know, it's like if you put water with pressure, any hole that it finds, it goes in. Okay? And it's little dense. It's not like so liquid. It's a little dense. So as it goes in, there is some pressure as it goes downwards. And every channel that it finds, it goes inside. And it starts filling our whole subtle body. And everywhere this touches, imagine, for example, a moment that we are very sensitive and someone touches us, we can feel something. You know? Similar to that, anywhere where this nectar, white nectar touches, it generates a sensation of bliss. Okay? And it is described as a sort of an orgasm that is very long and is overwhelming. It's this deep state of bliss that no more space for anything other than that experience. So imagine this bliss coming down, entering through each one of our channels, filling completely first the crown chakra. Then when it goes to the throat chakra, it's even bigger bliss. Then when it goes to the heart, it's even more overwhelming. Then when it goes to the navel, it's even more overwhelming. And then when it goes to the secret chakra, it's completely overwhelming. It's like it's such a state of bliss that there is no space for anything else other than realizing that it is empty of inherent existence. So it's through that state of bliss that we see, okay, it is blissful and yet it lacks inherent existence. It doesn't exist in an independent, autonomous way. It's interdependent. It lacks inherent existence. So, ideally what we do is that identity, I am the union of method and wisdom, I am Buddha Vajradhara, that identity of Vajradhara, which is not made of a blue body with a hugging mudra, that's an external appearance. Being Vajradhara is something much deeper, which is the non-dual union of method and wisdom, of love, compassion and wisdom, of great bliss and emptiness. So we generate that identity and we bring it to a deeper level of consciousness through the bliss. Then, when we finish going down, then the red bodhicitta goes up. And it's the same process reverted. So the red bodhicitta, while the white bodhicitta is cool in nature, the red bodhicitta is warm. And that's why it moves upwards. So we feel this heat going up. And this heat, it enters all the subtle channels, all our nervous system, lymphatic system, all the veins, it goes through the whole body. And as it goes through our body, it generates this profound state of bliss until it reaches our crown. Okay? So, with this, through the bliss and the absorption of the subtle energies inside our central channel, we are bringing ourselves to a deeper level of consciousness. Theoretically, in this moment, there is no more conceptual thinking. There is just bliss. Actually, when we experience bliss, in the actual moment of pleasure, where is our mind? Past, present, or future? Present. Okay? In the moment of bliss, our mind not only is in the present, is it in a judgment way, analyzing, checking, understanding, or just experiencing? Just experiencing. You know, for most of us, this happens for a fraction of a second. But we still have some memory of it. Okay, we still can connect to it. So bliss by itself, it's nothing very special. It's a very powerful tool. Because bliss by itself, it allows us to come to the present moment, stop the conceptual thinking, and bring our mind to a deeper level of consciousness.
But this emptiness, what you said before, still it is empty of inner emptiness. And that moment should be no more there, no?
No,
otherwise I'm thinking still.
No, but this is a non-conceptual way of perceiving
it. Exactly.
Okay. So, to explain it a little bit better, let's imagine that our self, it's made of different levels. Like in Western psychology, it's given the example of the iceberg. One small part above, which is where normally the conscious part, and then there is subconscious, which is much deeper, bigger, no? Let's imagine another metaphor, which is of a ground, okay, where we have different levels. So we have the superficial level, where there is the earth, and you have the grass, and the little plants, and so on. And then the ground goes deeper, there is maybe 1 meter, depends where you live, that you have like the black earth. And then below that, you have like the more yellow earth that is more stable. Then under you have all the different rocks and so on, until you go to the very essence part, like the more deep part, okay? Where maybe you have water, whatever, okay? So, the superficial part is our gross mind. The between part is our subtle mind. And then we have the very subtle mind, which is the basis, let's say that water that is below. During our normal life, in order to access that lower part, we need to put a lot of water on the surface. And whatever we put on the surface, it starts to penetrate slowly. But if we don't put it constantly, it's going to evaporate part of it. It will go to a certain level, then it will not go deeper. It's only that which we repeat again and again and again and again and again and again, that slowly, slowly it will go deep. Otherwise, it can happen like even in the normal ground. If you put a lot of water, but you don't put water constantly, the water reaches the deepest part of the ground? No. It's like when it happens in places that don't rain for a long time and suddenly you have a very strong rain, nothing goes inside. Okay? So for any of our experiences to reach the very subtle level of our mind and transform our habits and our preconditions, our how to say, the word in English. Okay, doesn't come the word. Anyhow, to reach our subtle mind, where there are the imprints, okay? It takes a long time to pour and needs to be very constant, which means I need to act with generosity many times and in a very constant basis in order for that habit of generosity to move to a subtle level and to reach a very subtle level. Okay? And the same thing is for all our habits. So, what is an alternative? Not easy at all, but very powerful. I drill a hole like a well. I make a drilling until the deepest part, and then I pour the nectar, I pour generosity, I pour love, I pour everything, but it depends what I pour inside. Huh? Because if the poison goes in, then it's very dangerous, because I will poison the whole base right away. So great bliss is the drilling. Okay, when we develop bliss, it will bring us from a gross level to a subtle and very subtle. The highest and the deepest and the strongest is the level of bliss. The deepest it will bring us. Emptiness is what we put inside the hole that we make of the drilling. Okay. So what happens if I develop bliss within a state of attachment? What am I pouring inside? Attachment. If I develop bliss within a state of love, what I pour inside? Love. So that's why bliss by itself, it's not anything that important. Bliss together with a virtuous state of mind, such as love, compassion, and wisdom, it's very powerful. Because the state of pleasure, the state of bliss, allows us to bring us from in a very, almost like surgical way, like a surgery, like very precise, like when drilling, and takes us to a deeper level of consciousness. The important is what we put inside. It's not possible to drill without putting anything, or there is always something together. Okay, that's why in Tantra we need to generate on the basis of love and compassion. We generate wisdom, and then we generate bliss, through which, in this state of bliss, we connect with that state of love, compassion, and wisdom. So, when we talk about the union of great bliss and emptiness, great bliss is the observer. Emptiness is what is being observed. Great bliss is the drilling, is the method. Wisdom, together with compassion, which is called absolute bodhicitta, is what we pour inside. Okay? So, in the practice of self-healing, when we reach the part of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we are starting to drill. And we are actually generating great bliss and emptiness and compassion. We are developing that through the whole practice, and we generate this beautiful identity. I am a Buddha, full of compassion and wisdom. And that's what we want to bring from a gross to a subtle level. So once we reach that, then we can make the whole. Okay? And that's when we do the part of the secret and wisdom empowerment. That's when we are drilling the hole. So the white bodhicitta that descends, generating that profound state of bliss, and the red bodhicitta that ascends, generating again that state of bliss. It's like drilling and going deeper and deeper and deeper. And within that whole process, we connect on the basis of love and compassion with the true nature of reality, of emptiness. Okay? So this is the objective. And we go deep and deep. In other words, we go deep and deep, bringing this identity, I am Buddha Vajradhara. And we bring it deeper and deeper. So once we feel the secret empowerment is called secret because it is based on the two energies, which are very much connected also with our sexual energy, which is the male and female energy, and is connected with pleasure. And the most common way and accessible way for us to understand this process is actually to sexual pleasure, which doesn't mean that we generate this process through sexual pleasure, but it's our own reference. Okay? When in a normal mundane way we think about bliss and this state of pleasure, one of the most strong experiences that normally a person without deep levels of meditation and so on can reach, it comes from the sexual pleasure. Okay? I remember one time one person from the Sangha was doing retreat. And then after one session, she came to me and said, Lama, I need to ask you something. I feel a little ashamed. And she was a little ashamed. I said, what happened? He said, I was doing the mantras. And then suddenly I start to feel heat coming from below. And then this heat start to move up, 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 up. And then I start to feel a sensation of bliss. And it was like an orgasm that would never end. And it was much better than anything I ever had. And it was overwhelming through my whole being. And I couldn't move. I was continuing to do the mantra, but not even without sound, not moving 1 millimeter. And it was overwhelming, this whole thing. Okay, that's what we call generating bliss. It's something physical together. Okay. It is secret because it is something that, if understood in the wrong way, can bring wrong results. Okay? What happens if I induce myself in pleasure with a mind of attachment? I familiarize on a deeper level with attachment. Okay? So most commonly, when people enter, when most of us, most commonly when human beings enter into a state of physical pleasure, physical mental pleasure, which naturally brings the mind to a more subtle level of consciousness, there is, in the moment of orgasm, there is a very short absorption, very quick absorption of the elements. What is the state of mind through which normally a person would be? Realization of emptiness, compassion and altruism towards all sentient beings, or normally attachment and desire based on selfishness. I want pleasure. Okay? It can be mixed with some love towards the other person, and that's already something very good. Okay? But there is a very strong part of attachment, desire, and selfishness. This is why it is said that the same experience, it can be a very powerful method of bringing oneself to developing one's own qualities, or making one's own defilements even stronger. It's clear, no? So, just in between, on a very basic level, it means whenever we go through an experience that we go into a deeper level of consciousness, and this may happen when we fall asleep, during our lifetime when we faint, or when there is a sexual pleasure like orgasm, or when we die. Okay. The important key point is generate a virtuous state of mind, which can be simply love, altruism. Okay, if possible, to have the realization of the lack of inherent existence, even better. But if there is a virtual state of mind when drilling on the ground, this will allow it naturally to that virtuous mind to go deeper. This is the important. Okay, and when we look in Tantra, I think many of you have ever seen many times we do Argam, Padyam, Pushbe, Dube, Aloke, Gende, Nevidye, Shakta, Pratishtha, so on. No? Why we make offerings? To oneself as the deity, for example. To generate bliss. Because when we drink something nice, when we eat something nice, when we see something beautiful, through all our 5 senses, we generate bliss. The 5 senses are the doors for bliss, if we use, or for suffering. Depends how we connect. And bliss itself is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful tool to bring us to a deeper state of consciousness. And it's one of the key aspects of Vajrayana Buddhism, is to use bliss in our favor. Okay? So in the practice of self-healing here, even when we have all the visualizations of the Buddhas, it's everything very blissful. Beautiful, nice smell, nice touch. You know? When we visualize ourselves as the Buddha, we are not visualizing a very rigid environment and some sort of, a sterile environment, like being inside a lab or something like that. No. Normally we visualize beautiful environment, and then the touch, we are dressed with the most beautiful silks and this and that. Like everything is blissful and pleasurable. Because the intention is to connect to that inner state of bliss. Okay. So we generate that with white bodhicitta, red bodhicitta. Then we go to the drawing into the upper corner here. And we can see there is a skull cup, and then with something red and white inside. Why the skull cup? Because it is said that the main place of bliss in the body is starting from the head. The condition that generates bliss is starting from between the navel and the secret chakra. So it is this inner heat that goes up, that melts the so-called white bodhicitta in the crown, and then there is this feeling of bliss that goes from above to below. So normally the skull cup symbolizes bliss. Okay? In our culture, we may look at a skull cup and may look like something a little bit more connected to death or who knows. But no, it has nothing to do. It's just reminding us of bliss. Okay? And here the symbol is the white and the red together, because this is the moment in which the white bodhicitta descended, the red bodhicitta ascended, and now they will gradually absorb into our heart. So the white bodhicitta, they join together the crown and they go down to the throat. The secret chakra goes to the navel goes to the heart, the throat goes to the heart. And all the different energies absorb into the heart.
But first is that the white is dripping, let's say, and the heat is up. No?
Up, yeah.
Then this process.
No, this is when we do Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay? When we do Mahasukha, it's basically, if we had 4 arms, we would do together this, no? Crown and secret, throat and navel and heart. So in this moment, it's like the central channel is filled up first with the white bodhicitta going down and the red bodhicitta going up. And now it's going to reabsorb back into the heart chakra. So this is the moment in which all the subtle energy winds, all the prana, absorbs into the heart chakra. Okay? So basically, we imagine that the white and the red, they go down, they mix together and they come down to the throat, then they go to the heart, and then from the secret chakra go to the navel, from the navel go to the heart, and they absorb into the so-called indestructible drop at our own heart. And the main meaning here, what we imagine, is that all the subtle energy absorbs. So there is no more feeling of our 5 senses. Okay, and even the part of attraction and aversion and all of that, our emotional mind loses strength. Our subtle body, it's basically degenerating completely. There is nothing more left there. There is just the central channel, and even the central channel, everything absorbs into the heart. When all our subtle energies enter into our heart, this is what we call, normally in the death process, the black vision. Okay, and in this case is what we call, there is the wisdom empowerment. Okay, so so-called wisdom empowerment which the complete name is the Wisdom Consort Empowerment, which is the non-dual union of the male and female energy, and all that is then it's the deepest level of consciousness. It's basically when we are drilling and we reach the deepest place. Okay? And this is when we reach our mind goes from a subtle to a very subtle level. All of these practices we do normally, when most of us do, we are like, how to say, faking it somehow. We are imagining it. When it is done in the real way, which is the practitioner sitting there is no more breathing. No, the five senses completely stop. Even the breathing stop. The practitioner goes into a state, not only a deeper state of consciousness, but it's like similar to being dead. It's not real dead yet, but if you check, it's like if the body is almost like that. Even the breathing stops, the heartbeat gets almost like stopped. Like everything goes to the very, 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 very basic. It's very similar to dying. Then the practitioner goes until the limit before dying and then comes back in meditation. Okay, but we are not, I imagine most of us are not really doing this. I say most of us because I cannot talk for everyone. Okay, but we are imagining this, that we are bringing to a deeper level of consciousness. And actually this part of the practice is an also wonderful way to prepare ourselves for our own death. But this is another subject. Because it's very similar to the process of death. Okay. So in this moment we imagine that everything absorbs into our heart, and then there is nothing more than this total darkness, like poof. There is nothing more than this. We are in a blissful state, realizing the lack of inherent existence, but there is everything completely fades away. And then from within this total darkness appears light. That's when we go to the word empowerment. And the word empowerment is called word empowerment because it means the state beyond word, which is a non-conceptual place. And this is the very subtle level of consciousness. So basically, the wisdom empowerment, it represents the moment in which we bring our mind into the very subtle level, which is not only not more conceptual, but also not more emotional. There is no more attraction and aversion. And we go into that very deep level of consciousness within which there is this perception of light. And that's when we identify ourselves as being Vajradhara, because that's what we kept on. So we identify ourselves within this union of bliss and emptiness. And our very subtle body is pure, our very subtle mind is pure, and the two are non-dually together in the state of bliss and emptiness. And I am Buddha Vajradhara within a very subtle level of consciousness. Okay? And this is called the word empowerment, where we say by the power of the truth. What is the truth? Interdependence, emptiness, the true nature of reality. Nothing exists in an autonomous, independent, objective way as it appears. Everything is interdependent. That's the truth. By the power of the truth, peace and bliss now and forever. Peace means the pacification of all suffering and mental defilements. Bliss is the state of great bliss. So to be in peace and bliss now and forever means to be a Buddha. Okay? So by the power of the truth, peace and bliss now and forever. It represents this inner state of the union of bliss and emptiness on a deeper level of consciousness. Okay? And then we stay into this as long as we can. And then there is a moment in which we say, okay, but in order to help other sentient beings, which is my main objective, if I am only into this very subtle state of consciousness called the Dharmakaya, the body of essence, I cannot interact with others, so I need to manifest a more gross level of body. That's when we do the part of conclusion, in which we recite Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyapsuchi Rangi Lase Dotri Sumne Cho Donga Chosu Nyarcho Tadado Gecho Kundu Jishi Droto Nche. And there is a translation. This one is good to know the translation, because there's a lot of meaning into that verse. can try to reach the Dutch, but I think it will not be successful. The meaning in English, it's something like that. Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyapsuchi. I take refuge in the Guru and in the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Rangi Laste Doji Sungnecho. I am clearly myself as Guru Buddha, as the deity, holding Vajra and bell. So I appear in the aspect with a gross body, with holding Vajra and bell, with the hugging mudra, which means I have clearly the union of method, which is love, compassion, and bliss, together with wisdom. Okay? I commit myself to uphold all the dharmas of Sutra and Tantra, which means I will not only practice, but I will share the Dharma on both ways, Sutra and Tantra. And acting in a virtuous way of holding all virtues, I will act for the benefit of all sentient beings. Which means I commit myself, I will practice generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom on the basis of love, and I will act for the benefit of every sentient being in whatever way possible. So basically here, it's the moment in which, from the state of great bliss and emptiness and clear light, once again the world manifests around us, and we see ourselves in a pure state. I am Vajradhara, but I manifest myself in a gross body to act for the benefit of others. Okay? And that's where we complete the cycle. We started from this gross body, then we simulated death, we went through the whole process of developing and identifying ourselves with our qualities, and then we come back to the place where we started, but transformed. Okay? Can we see the different steps of the practice? Okay? So we have preliminary practice, bring presence to breathing to the present moment, generate the motivation of love towards oneself and others, refuge and bodhicitta, invite Guru Buddha, the holy beings, make the connection, pay respect, make offerings, purify negativities, rejoice, request the Dharma, request to be together, dedicate, request for the blessings, mandala offering, receive the blessings, Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Karma, Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, light to the 5 chakras, and with this we complete the preliminary practices. Then with generation practice, we generate ourselves. First we purify our body and mind. As a basis on that, we do the purification of the elements. By doing the purification of the elements, we generate an inner state of bliss. From within the inner state of bliss, we do Om Subhavashuddha Sarva Dharma Subhavashuddha Hang. All phenomena are of a pure nature as they lack inherent existence, and so am I. We meditate on emptiness. And then within that state of bliss and emptiness, we simulate the process of death. Everything dissolves, and from within that total emptiness, full of light, we appear in the state of a pure body as Vajrasattva. We identify ourselves within that pure state, and then we focus on the body mandala. Central channel, 5 chakras, lotus, 6 syllable, symbol, Buddhas. Then we go into each one, we enter the completion stage, we focus into each one of the 5 chakras, and we identify ourselves within that qualities developed to their maximum potential. I am Buddha Mogasiddhi, I am Buddha Ratnasambhava, I am Akshobhya, I am Amitabha, I am Vairocana. As a consequence of that, Vajra Master Empowerment, I am Vajradhara, I am the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Then we take that level of consciousness, of identity on the union of great bliss and emptiness, and we take that from a gross level to a subtle and very subtle level. So we have secret empowerment, white bodhicitta, red bodhicitta, great bliss through which we realize emptiness, and we bring that identity to a subtle level. Then all the subtle, then we have wisdom empowerment, where all the winds absorb into our heart, and we develop even a deeper level of bliss. Our mind goes into a deeper level of consciousness, where we continue that same mind state of I am Vajradhara. And then we reach clear light, and we, within the very subtle level of consciousness of clear light, we identify ourselves clearly as a consequence of the process, as being Vajradhara, as being the union of great bliss and emptiness in a very subtle level. And that's where we call the union of illusory body, which is our very subtle body in a pure state, and clear light, our very subtle mind in a pure state. And here, the illusory body is represented, it's connected directly to great bliss, and the clear light to emptiness, which is the union of mind and body together. They two mix together like water and milk. We cannot divide one from the other, and this is called the state of union. I am a Buddha. And then this mind-body state, in a pure form, made of great bliss and emptiness, I am the Buddha. We stayed into that as long as we can. That's called the word empowerment. And then transformed from that essence, we come again back to the surface in order to help others. And once again, the gross level of perception manifests. We perceive the world. We manifest ourselves in a gross body within the state of bliss and compassion and love, with the commitment to help others. And we make final dedications. Okay? So, now, when we look at the steps, it's not that complicated. The important thing is that the more we do it, we can do it into a deeper level. We can slowly, slowly go deeper. The basic essential part of self-healing is we familiarize ourselves with our qualities. And the simple fact of saying, all the anger goes away, it means this is not part of me, I can live without it. Okay, it works on so many different levels. I tried today to explain some parts which normally are not specifically written, to help many of you already do the practice of self-healing so many years. So I tried to go a little bit into some deeper aspects and to give the overview of the practice. Okay? So, one last thing, and then we will stop for lunch, and then we will conclude the last session doing the practice together. Okay? About mantra recitation. When you do mantra recitation, there are two different forms, many forms, but let's say normally we divide it into two main forms of mantra recitation, which is called in Tibetan ngakde and yide. Okay? Ngakde means verbal recitation, yide means mental recitation. Okay? So we should always start with verbal recitation. Verbal recitation, it means we take the mala or without the mala and we recite the mantra. Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya, Om Akshobhya. Whatever is the mantra, we will recite it so many times that we get more and more familiarized with the mantra. Okay? Normally, it's said that the minimum amount to get familiarized with the mantra is 100,000 recitation. Okay? But the best amount to get familiarized with the mantra, it is said to be 100,000 times for each syllable of the mantra. And when the mantra has many syllables, it's around altogether 1 million times or 600,000 times, depending on the mantra. Okay? In other words, you need to recite a lot. Okay? But the point is that when we recite the mantra, the more we do, the more it becomes natural to recite it. Okay? So when I do Om Akshobhya, 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 and I will recite and recite. Then there is the visualization, which we've explained before briefly. Okay? And we do the mantra. There is actually a verbal part in it. And this is very important. It helps to bless our speech. It transforms our speech. It familiarizes with the mantra and so on. It's not so easy to focus on the recitation and the visualization together. Okay? Especially in the beginning. It's easier or I recite or I visualize. Okay? So we create initially familiarization with the mantra, and then sometimes we can somehow stop doing the mantra verbally to do the visualization, then we go back to the verbal recitation of the mantra. When we create familiarity with the mantra recitation, we go to another level, which is called the mental recitation. Okay? There are many ways we could go quite long and deep here, but making it simple, we recite the mantra without making any sound. Okay? So we are mental. It's like when we have a music looping in our mind. Okay? But the mental recitation, it goes together with our breath. Okay? So yesterday we did the breathing in 4 phases. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Okay? If we are able to create more familiarity with this, the breathing by itself, where we hold longer and we exhale longer and we breathe with the belly, this will naturally bring us to a more calm and deeper state of mind. Okay. So when we do this mental recitation, we do the following. When I inhale, it comes in. It will be not natural to inhale and go out, right? So when we inhale, we receive the blessings. Light and nectar go into the nostrils, follow the 2 side channels, enter the central channel, fill the central channel, and absorb into the sit syllable at our heart. Okay, when it enters. When I hold the breath, that's when it absorbs into the heart. I exhale, it manifests from the heart, it again goes out to the 2 side channels, and it goes out to help sentient beings, transforming in all the different forms. When I finish to exhale, it goes to everyone. I hold my breath. I rejoice that all of them reach a state of peace and well-being. And then I inhale again, and the light and nectar come back again, enter through my nostrils, go to the central channel, hold the breath, absorb into the heart chakra at the sit syllable. Exhale, emanate, go towards sentient beings. Hold, rejoice of their well-being. Inhale, come back, absorb into, go into inside the central channel, hold the breath, absorb into the heart chakra. Okay? One of the ways of training this we do with the Om Ah Hum, which is in the end of self-healing. And we call here, the vase breathing. And there are sometimes some confusion because people say we do Om, Ah, Hum. But then when we go to the book of self-healing, it says to inhale, hold, exhale, and then how we do that. Okay? This is a non-verbal recitation. When we normally do Om, Ah, Hum, it's like a preparation for the actual non-verbal recitation. So normally when we do Om, the movement we do is showing us what we visualize. The light and nectar come in through the left, right and left channel, enter the central channel, fills the central channel, and absorbs into the heart. Okay. But what we do is that this is a preparation, which is very good. The actual non-verbal practice, we inhale Om, we hold A and absorbs into the heart, we exhale Hum. Okay? This is also called the Bhadra recitation. Okay? So we inhale Om with the sound, inner sound of Om, fills the central channel with the sound of Om, it absorbs into the heart with the sound of A. We exhale with the sound of Hum. Goes towards all sentient beings. Make offerings towards the holy beings. Then we hold for a moment, and then we inhale again with the sound of Om. Come all the light and nectar, blessings, enter the central channel. Sound of Ah absorbs into the central channel. Sound of Hum, exhale again, okay? So we can see here, this is one of the most deeper levels of practice that we can do. But what is the basis to be able to do that? Breathing technique that we learned in the very beginning. Okay. So if we are able to do some training with the breathing, okay, and without needing to do much, just do the breathing. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And slowly, never force too much, okay? Please, when you try to hold and exhale, don't, if you feel that you are holding, that you are not able to hold anymore, you are not doing it right. If you feel that you finish to exhale, I need air, you are not doing it right. Okay? It must always be done in a level that is still slightly comfortable. Okay? So for some people, in the beginning, they have difficulty holding or difficulty exhaling slowly. So you do the minimum necessary of the 4 parts, and then slowly you allow it to become more and more.
But you said yesterday also contract when we did. It was yesterday, no? Yeah, we did.
When you inhale,
Yes.
and then when you hold, ideally you contract the lower muscles, okay? And you focus on the energy going from the navel chakra inside the central channel, absorbing into the heart as you hold. This is when you hold, it's called in Sanskrit kumbhak, okay? And this is what we call the vase breathing,
Ah, okay.
okay? This is
Okay.
when we hold.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we exhale. And even if we go in the old Vedic teachings, it says that we can only reach deeper levels of consciousness while in kumbhak, while in holding the breath. Okay, and this is something that slowly it can get more deeper and deeper. So, my advice into that is that we do the whole self-healing, but also focus in the beginning in breathe. And as we do the practice, we try to keep the rhythm of our breath together. So we inhale, hold, exhale, hold, then inhale again, okay? Ideally, the inhaling and if inhaling is 1, holding and exhaling is 2. And then the next is inhaling is 1. So if we imagine, I was explaining this some time ago to someone, it's not like a perfect square. Think about like a square made of 4 sides, but that the first 2 lower sides are shorter and the 2 upper ones are the double of the length. Okay, so if we make a drawing, here I have 1, 2, 2, and 1. Okay, can we imagine something like this? Not that difficult, right? So I inhale, hold, exhale, hold. So if I inhale 1, I hold, 2, and I exhale, 2, and I hold again, 1. Okay? Then if I inhale 4, I hold, 8, exhale, 8, and then hold, 4. If I inhale 8, I hold, 16, exhale 16, and hold 8. Okay? So, normally, something that we can all reach, it's 4, 8, 8, 4. But we need some time, we need some training. It's not something that goes right away. And even when we start, we need to start slow, and the more we do it. And even from a very gross level, physical point of view, doing this type of breathing will help a lot. Will help us to have more energy, to feel less tired, to sleep better. I have been using it, for example, in the previous months, I have had a lot of pain in my arm. I have this frozen shoulder, and I was like many nights with waking up in the middle of the night with pain. Now it's much, much, much better. But I had like between September, October, it was end of August, September, it was really bad. And what was the technique? In the middle of the night, wake up, pain, then do the breathing in the 4 cycles. It helps the pain to fade away. It helps to calm down the mind and to go back into deep sleep. And also, one experience I had on a very basic level, but someone may be interested about it, was there was a period last August which I was doing this breathing technique maybe 4 or 6 times a day, each time for at least between 15 minutes to half an hour. Okay, when we were doing the retreat with the group, we were doing many times together. And then one day, by the end of these 10 days, 1 week, 10 days, whatever it was, we went for a walk in a place that I had been many times before, and there is a whole part of the walk which is going up. And I had clear memory the last time I went to that walk, when it was the moment of go up, I would be short in breath. And this last time that I went, while during this period of training in breathing, I continued to breathe by my nose during the whole walking time, and I never felt tired for 1 moment. I never felt short of breath for 1 moment. Even it's like going up in places that before I would do. So for me it was like something, you can see even like how it helps the body on a gross level also, and it helps on a more subtle level. And then when we look into deeper meditations, like the mental recitation and the Bhadra recitation, if we do not know how to breathe correctly, we cannot do it. So training on the breath, it's very good. One last info about this, when we count the breath, there is 2 ways of counting. More simple way, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, no? We count. The other way is we use mantra. We use mental recitation. So for example, I breathe in 1 muni muni. Om muni muni maha muni shakya muni soha. I keep 2 muni muni. Om muni muni maha muni shakya muni soha. Om muni muni maha muni shakya muni soha. Exhale 2 muni muni. In, keep 1. So if we find one mantra and we have a way of reciting it that becomes one unity of breath, then instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we just do the mantra. Okay? And then when we recite mentally, we can recite fast, we can recite slow. So we find a nice length that works for us, and then we can do the mental recitation. Okay? And then normally, together with this, we have inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And then in between that, inhale, receive the blessings, hold, absorb into the heart, chakra, exhale, emanate, hold, absorb into the other beings, inhale again, reabsorb into us. Okay?
There are many techniques that also require you breathing through the mouth, but with us it's mostly through the nose, right?
There are thousands of breathing techniques with different objectives. For example, I have learned one technique which the teacher that taught me, he was calling it inner air conditioning. Okay? So if you need to cool the temperature of the body, you inhale through the mouth and you exhale through the nose. You do. And actually, when you inhale through the mouth, it cools the air. Okay? And it's interesting because our breathing is, for example, is the main way of regulating the temperature of the body. So this one you do. If you have a lot of anxiety, you inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Okay? But normally all the breathing techniques that we use deeply, it's everything through the nostril. Okay? Especially inhaling. Okay? Unless there is some specific, but There are thousands of breathing techniques, and each one has a different specific objective. Then we have the technique that you inhale from one side, exhale from the other, which is also very important. Like there are many, many, many different breathing techniques. I think the basic is we need to breathe consciously. And there are many techniques which are valid. Okay? But this one, what I have seen is the very simple and yet powerful method is breathing in 4 cycles. Even the secret services are using this. Like CIA, they use this technique which they call to clean away mental garbage. It's like they train their agents in the military and so on. When they are in very dangerous situations and extreme situations, the mind starts going around and thinking about everything that could happen. But in order to remain cool, you need to be in the present. So they call it box breathing. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And this is the technique that they are using to keep the mind in the present moment while going there. You know, it has much more powerful benefits, but it works. So just to say that, please, we give some emphasis in the breathing in the beginning of self-healing. While we do the mantras, we try to again and again to bring this awareness. Okay, and then we can do the Bhadra recitation with Om Ahum, and we can do the mental recitation of the mantra together with the breath. But to do that, we need first to train a little bit on our breath. And it's not something that you train once and it's done. We need to have continuity. Okay? So, this is, I think, more or less, not everything I wanted to say, but a lot of it. Just sharing some aspects of the practice that are not written, obviously. And I wanted just to give some aspects that are more introductory and some aspects which are more advanced, because we have people of different levels of practice, okay? And self-healing adapts to all different levels. So we now do our dedication, and then after lunch, we have around 2 hours session, and then we will do the practice without hurry, and then one conclusion. Okay? Yesterday I thought to do first the practice today. Then when we started, I said I prefer to give some more explanation, then we are more fresh when we do the practice with the understanding of the practice. Okay? Jetsu lame kutse rapten shi nam karatrinle chakyur gepada losan tempedru me sasumgi drove munsel tatu ne gyurchi ni modele tsendele ni me kuyan delekshi ni tse tatu deleke kuncho sungi chingelo Kuncho sungi madrutso, kuncho sungi jashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our life with various signs of auspiciousness.
Mogen de juwelen ons een zegeningen schenken, mogen zij ons helpen alle realisaties te verwerven en het pad van ons leven besproeien met variërende tekens van voorspoed. Nacht oder mittags möge die 3 Wege uns den Segen gewähren, mögen sie uns helfen, alle Frieden uns zu erlangen und unseren Lebensweg mit verschiedensten Zeichen zu springen.
Oma huntamba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamjo rinpoche, drenba lame genzo rinpoche, kyame kuncho sumla chepabu. 8 smakle. And we come back at 3, correctly?
Nou kan Michel dat komen zingen. Ja, ga je dat? En als Michel dat doet.